Hello and welcome to the news at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, walk-in doctor surgeries promised by the First Minister.
We will sponsor these skilled staff so they can work, pay tax and help keep Scotland's care homes running.
We will look at all the big talking points of the weekend. Also coming up on the programme, residents in Mull are taking their demands over the site of a new school to the Court of Session. We will have all the sport with Lewis, looking back on that Scotland game, I'm going to guess, Lewis?
Yes, correct, Amy, indeed. A strange night at Hampden leaves Scotland head coach Steve Clarke disappointed, but his team have made big strides towards the World Cup after victory over Belarus.
And we will hear from broadcasting legend Cathy McDonald about her love of the mod. Hello, I'm Amy Irons and welcome to the news at 7. It is the season of party conferences, and today the SNP wrapped up theirs in Aberdeen with First Minister John Swinney making some big promises. He says there will soon be walk-in GP services open 7 days a week until 8 o'clock at night, making 1 million more appointments available, avoiding that 8 AM rush on the phone to try and see a doctor. Here is our political editor, Glenn Campbell.
Whether you live in Aberdeen or elsewhere in Scotland, it can be hard to get an on-the-day appointment with a GP.
I always find that when you're getting an appointment for children, it does come quicker. So, but yeah, it's really hard. It's really difficult.
Same day. I don't think it's possible.
You can't just go in and see a doctor usually, unless it's an emergency.
In his SNP conference address, the First Minister set out new plans to tackle what he calls the 8 o'clock rush to secure a consultation with the doctor.
We want to make it easier for people to see a GP where and when it works for them. That's why I can announce today that the SNP government will open a nationwide network of walk-in GP services.
If re-elected, the First Minister wants to set up an initial 15 of these centres, open into the evenings and operating 7 days a week, with a view to expanding this network.
That's the SNP government working for Scotland.
He also has plans to boost the social care workforce by helping overseas staff who have visas to be in the UK get jobs in Scotland.
We will sponsor these skilled staff so they can work, pay tax and help keep Scotland's care homes running. Hundreds of dedicated workers able to start work immediately. Scotland's older people must not pay the price for Westminster's prejudice.
He was positive about immigration and asylum and accused UK politicians, including the Prime Minister, of a race to the right.
Keir Starmer promised to be a left-wing Labour leader, and then he became a right-wing Prime Minister. He stole Jeremy Corbyn's clothes, and now he's dressing up as Nigel Farage.
John Swinney said he was just getting started as First Minister and was seeking to deliver radical change.
And together, let's win Scotland's independence.
Nothing motivates the SNP membership more, however hard the path to another referendum may be.
Well, Glenn has been at the conference all weekend and can reflect on the mood of the last few days.
I think party members left the conference centre here in Aberdeen after John Swinney's keynote address pretty buoyed up with 7 months to go to the Holyrood elections, because he finished that speech with a rallying cry for independence, which as always is the unifying force in the SNP. It's the reason that the party exists. His strategy to achieve that is to win an outright majority in next May's Holyrood elections, and that, repeating the performance of the SNP in 2011, he believes would also repeat the position where the UK government agreed to an independence referendum. And remember, that agreement is essential if there is to be another vote on that question. There are problems though. Getting an outright majority at Holyrood is not easy because it's a partly proportional system which is designed to stop any one party from dominating. It's also worth remembering that the SNP might still be more popular than its rivals in Scottish politics, but it's far less popular than it was before. What they've got on their side is that the opposition, the unionist parties, are more divided. Support for them is more divided than it has been with the rise of Reform UK, and that might just give the SNP a chance of breaking through and getting, if not that outright majority, something fairly close to it, and that at least would secure the party another term in office, a record 5th term in power at Holyrood.
Glenn Campbell in Aberdeen for us. Now, a man accused of murdering his girlfriend has told the High Court in Edinburgh that he went into shock after watching her stab herself 4 or 5 times. Aaron Pearson said Claire Levesque inflicted the injuries on herself during an argument at a house in Shetland, claiming she had been drinking whisky in the hours leading up to the fatal incident. Pearson denies all the charges against him. The trial before Judge Lord Arthurson continues. Thanks very much for joining us on tonight's News at 7. We have plenty more still to come for you in the programme, including as performers gear up for the Royal National Mod this week, we chat to broadcasting legend Cathy MacDonald about performing as a young girl and her love for the event.
Coming up in the weather forecast, we're talking a lot of dry weather, a lot of cloud, but some sunshine at times too. I'll have all the details later in the programme.
Now, the location of the only high school on the Isle of Mull has split opinion with people who live there for decades. As it stands, pupils living in the north of Scotland's 4th largest island go to school in Tobermory. But most of those living over an hour and a half away in the south have to get a ferry to Oban on the mainland, where they then stay in boarding school hostels during the week. Campaigners have long wanted a high school built in a more central location. So when Argyll and Bute Council then announced plans for a new campus still in Tobermory, some islanders took the council to court over their decision. Rob Clayton-Ingham is one of them and was at today's hearing and can join us now. Rob, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. Can you give us a run through of what exactly happened at the hearing today? I understand it was mainly procedural and no decision's been made as yet, but tell us what happened.
So we were represented by a King's Counsel, James Muir, who has made the case explaining the 4 points of argument that we had around issues of a land offer that was made for a site for a high school, around consultation. And so I wouldn't say that this was procedural, it was a bureaucratic process, but this was very definitely our hearing, initiated by the Mull Campus Working Group, a community group. And this is the hearing. We won't get the judgment from the judge for perhaps up to 3 months.
So Rob, you're a foster carer, I understand, and live in Benesson. Give us a sense of just what an upheaval it is for pupils and what it really can be like for children who do need to leave the island and travel to Oban for school.
We're in a very difficult position as a community down in the southwest, where we need to be very positive with the children that we're parenting, so that they don't feel that their education is a compromise. So we have to be very positive to the children, whilst recognising the hurt and damage that this arrangement does to them. And it's particularly painful when Argyll and Bute Council have identified a viable, possible plan to educate all high school age children on the island and then don't pursue it.
Where do you think the ideal site would be, Rob?
There is an available site in Craignure, which is a central position. The dilemma that this puts the community in is that Argyll and Bute are only pursuing a single site for a primary school and a high school. We don't feel that Tobermory should lose its primary education and its early years services. It's vital that the community of Tobermory keeps that. But what we're saying is that we need a high school that can meet the needs of all of the children of the island, and that it's unreasonable to to not do that when the cases, when Argyll and Bute can find a solution that works.
I'm sure there will be a lot of people that agree with you on that. Rob, Clayton, Ingham, thank you very much for joining us on the programme.
Thank you.
Now, a Chinese energy company has announced plans to build the UK's largest wind turbine manufacturing facility and create more than 1,000 jobs at Ardersier. The firm, Mingyang, said the £1.5 billion project would create up to 1,500 jobs, with the first production taking place by late 2028. It has been in talks with the Scottish and UK governments over the last couple of years. Our business and economy editor, Douglas Fraser, has more.
This could be the breakthrough for the renewable energy sector in Scotland. We've waited well over 10 years from the promises we heard about reindustrialisation of Scotland because of the potential for offshore and onshore wind power. But there's been very little manufacturing come to Scotland. A lot of jobs in the service sector, design and engineering, the finance, legal services, but not in manufacturing. And that could be about to change on quite a big scale at Ardersier, just down the coast from me here in Inverness. The plan is for Mingyang, a very large Chinese company which plays a very large role in the offshore development in China, to develop its first plant in Europe, in the Highlands. 1,500 jobs, £1.5 billion promised, with production they hope starting from 2028. That would be to build the blades for offshore wind turbines, potentially onshore as well, and the nacelles, that's the gearbox that goes on top of the tower, which can weigh hundreds of tons. These are enormous pieces of equipment. There's a great deal of technology goes into them, and these would be skilled jobs in the Highlands as well, with supply chain as well. There would no doubt be a big political gain from the government that's able to let this go ahead, but there is a catch, because the UK government has to give its approval. The Chinese company is quite open about that, and the concern is around national security as well as the strategic concerns for an industry in which China could become too dominant. But the immediate problem would be if China embeds, say, software in the manufacturing process, which would give it effective control over the equipment offshore of strategic significance for the British economy. We've seen issues like this around the steel industry, around telecoms as well, where the British government is in a very difficult position, wanting, in the case of renewable energy, some very ambitious targets to be met by 2030. It will require a lot of foreign investment, and China is one of the best prospects for that. But it also faces some very difficult questions about working with China, being very wary of China, and the national security implications.
Douglas Fraser there. Let's get a roundup of some of the stories you can find on the BBC News app in Scotland today. A teenager who tried to murder a woman by pushing her in front of a moving train will be kept in a state hospital. Andrew Wathan attacked Sophie Scott at Highland Station in Glasgow in April last year. A project to replace ageing electricity infrastructure in Argyll and Bute has been approved by the Scottish Government. Overhead lines between Dunoon and Loch Long will be revamped as part of the work. The owners of a restaurant in East Kilbride have apologised after cutting down 80 trees near the premises, saying they will plant saplings to replace the lost trees. Well, for more information on all of those stories, you can scan that QR code on your screen and it will take you straight to the BBC Scotland News app. Now, a century-old technology first used on a sea crossing to Scotland is finally being used in the fight against climate change. A ship that was powered by towers rotating in the wind made its maiden voyage from Poland to Grangemouth back in 1925. The science is called the Magnus effect, and it's the same principle which causes a spinning football to bend through the air. I'm picturing a David Beckham-esque free kick. Well, our reporter Kevin Keane has made it his mission to find out more for us.
It must have been a bizarre sight. In the interwar years, aeronautical engineers had been developing technology to make diesel vessels like this one more efficient. And as the Bacau sailed under the Forth Bridge, those behind it thought it could revolutionise ship design.
Basically, you were saving fuel, and then you were harnessing the wind power, and then you're replacing, if you like, the propeller thrust with the thrust generated from the wind.
That wind hits the spinning towers from the side, creating higher air pressure behind the rotor and cutting the pressure up ahead, in turn creating forward thrust. There was some initial interest, with orders placed and a larger version of the Bacau being built and launched.
So this was great. But that coincided with the Great Depression, economical depression. And diesel engine technology came to the market, readily available, and it was cheap. So therefore, there wasn't really much need saving energy.
For the few who saw it, rotor sales were quickly destined to become the briefest of memories, a thing of the past. That was until now. A Finnish company has revived the technology powered by the drive to decarbonise. These lighter carbon fibre rotors can cut fuel consumption by 20%, and the fleet is growing.
When we look at the modern era of rotor sales, the physical phenomenon is really the same, but what's happening around it is really the key thing. I mean, the full control, the artificial intelligence-based steering of the sail.
There are already dozens of these now sailing around the world, with at least 46 more on order. But the maiden voyage of the first rotor vessel into the fourth is where it all started and where the technology was proved. Kevin Keane, reporting Scotland.
Well, still to come, we will see how the weather is looking with Christopher. And as the annual celebration of Gaelic language and culture takes place, we will find out what's on offer at this year's Mod. But first, it's sport time with Lewis. And Lewis, I feel like I'm in the minority by choosing to focus on the positives, the fact that we did get a win against Belarus last night. Lots of people not very happy with the performance.
No, you're certainly right, Amy, but let's keep that positivity up, shall we? Yes, hello there. It was a night when Steve Clarke's Scotland side secured the playoff to reach the World Cup and saw the head coach take charge of a record-breaking 72nd game. But instead of celebration, Clarke himself was even left really disappointed, and fans were quick to criticise the performance in the 2-1 win against Belarus, despite the national team navigating a near-perfect campaign so far in terms of their results. Chris McLaughlin has this report.
For the next hour on the phone-in, brace yourselves. We're talking about football, and in particular we're talking about what happened at Hampden last night.
A nation not quite sure how to feel about its football today.
I mean, let's not kid ourselves in. We've flipped the two games. But you won two games and the aggregate score was 5-2. So let's rejoice in that.
You can see that by our reaction at the end, which is hugely frustrating. Obviously the performance was nowhere near the standard that we need it to be.
There's no reason that's probably against a lesser ranked team. That's the poorest performance we've had here. So it's, like I said, it's a bit of a head scratcher for me.
Despite the mood, second spot is secured and with it a playoff place. But a draw against Greece next month away, followed by victory at home against Denmark, and Scotland are heading across the Atlantic next year.
I think it's only natural that the performances in the last two games have been slightly alarming. They've been low-key, they've been pedestrian, they've been a bit laboured. But, you know, as someone said, I think performances are for the circus. I think really it's all about results when it comes to the business of qualifying for a World Cup.
Far from pretty, but two games.
Moving to domestic football now, and Rangers have compiled a new shortlist containing more than two candidates after Steven Gerrard ruled himself out of the running for the vacant head coach's role. That means it's back to the rumour mill for supporters, with names like Danny Rowell, who left Sheffield Wednesday in the summer, among those linked with the position. High-profile names Graham Potter, Michael Carrick and Gary O'Neill are not among the candidates being considered. And earlier I spoke to Rangers review editor Joshua Barry and started by asking him where the weekend's news left the club and fans.
Last few days, Lewis, as it looked to all intents and purposes that Steven Gerrard was going to return. He'd flown in to the country. You don't fly in for pleasantries. That process was a good way along. It was very possible that Steven Gerrard was going to be the next Rangers manager or head coach. And a lot of people naturally were quite excited about that, and understandably so. On Saturday night, news emerged that Gerrard would not be returning. And now Rangers have to look elsewhere. And I think crucially for probably a fan base who have been so disillusioned for large points of this season, really since the optimism of the takeover, it's coming to terms with the fact that what would have been a really popular appointment is now not going to happen.
Yeah, so where does that leave the club, Joshua? We're hearing a lot of names, particularly Danny Rowell being heavily mentioned, but there are so many potential candidates. And I think what's probably striking is quite different candidates as well, isn't it?
The important, I think, commonality is that head coach, and Rangers moved to this head coach model in the summer. They believe that moving to this type of structure, that really, if you look back to when Steven Gerrard left a few years ago, the club have kind of had an identity crisis since then, right? Going from different manager to different manager, a different idea to different idea. This is supposed to alleviate that, but also I think the question in return is, as a club, do Rangers just need a figurehead?
There was a lot of pressure building, certainly, Josh, towards the board, wasn't there? Fans were certainly vocal in their criticism of members of the board, whether it be Kevin Thelwell or Patrick Stewart. I've asked you this before, but I feel like we have to ask the same similar sort of questions every time we're talking about this. How important is it for them to get this next appointment bang on the money, or the scopes will just turn straight back to them again, won't it?
Since this takeover happened, it's not really been a chain of happy events that have followed. I think a lot of the capital, I would say, has been used up with that Martin appointment. If it had been Steven Gerrard, I think the context is different, right? Because no one's blaming you really for appointing Steven Gerrard. He's the figurehead at that point. Yeah. Whoever comes in a head coach capacity, while they will be a figurehead to some degree, I don't think it takes the scrutiny off the CEO, off the sporting director, off those roles in the same way that someone like Steven Gerrard would have, fundamentally just because of who he is and what he did the last time he was in Glasgow.
Joshua Barry speaking to me there, and you can read more on the Rangers rumour mill on the BBC Sport website as well. And of course, Amy, more reaction to that dramatic night at Hampden for Scotland. Yeah, everybody's been talking about it. A lot of people actually, Lewis, getting in touch with the BBC today, giving us their thoughts on the performance last night. A couple of comments. We've got Charlie in Chapelton says, when we qualified for 5 consecutive World Cups between 1974 and 1990, almost every player in their respective squads was a first choice at their club. Presently, only a few players are playing a competitive 90 minutes every week. So Charlie thinking that's a big factor, Lewis. Yes, but to pick out a positive as well, Amy, David in Cambuslang says no one will remember these last 2 if we get through. We only need a draw against Greece, but need a win against Denmark. We can do it. Just make sure it's winner takes all with Denmark. Love the positivity there, David. Yes, we're going with you, David. Thanks very much, Lewis. Thank you. Amy. Now, the Royal National Mod is happening this week in Lochaber, an annual festival showcasing Gaelic music, poetry, drama and dance. Broadcasting legend Cathy MacDonald competed at Mods growing up and has been presenting the BBC's coverage since the 1980s. Our reporter Caitlin Hutchison caught up with her. She gears up for Mod Week and asked how significant the event is for promoting the Gaelic language and culture.
But this year it was success at Stirling. Here then are Falkirk Junior Gaelic Choir, winners of the Tom Crawford Trophy.
Enormously significant because I think obviously it's profile raising for the language and making it very much relevant. We see so many people coming to the language through events like this. It supports education, it supports broadcasting, creative industries and so on. And I think when you have a big event, when you have people coming together for a week-long celebration, we maximise on that opportunity to profile raise and to remind people of how much a part of our own culture it is.
Yes, and Scottish Gaelic has obviously played a huge part in your life. What's your own history with the Mod then?
In my young days, you were expected to perform at the Mod from primary school, which I did. I think I was about 8 when I went to my first local Mod in Stornoway. And then I joined the Nicholson Institute Gaelic Choir, and that was wonderful, wonderful experience. Great choir. It meant that we competed at various mods, various national mods. It was a great opportunity to get away, but I suppose to catch up with friends as well.
And now we've got another lady. Would you like to tell us your name? Cathy Ann MacDonald. Cathy Ann MacDonald. And you won the silver medal. Congratulations. Very well done. I was in a competition when you were singing this morning.
Yes, I saw you there.
And I saw you making a face when you were waiting. Did you have an awful long time to wait before you sang?
Yes, I was quite a while. I was getting a bit nervous.
I think today the benefits that people feel are very much that togetherness. Even though there's a lot of hard graft involved, there's a tremendous sense of well-being there too.
And of course, this year you'll be live in the studio, joined by special guests and experts assessing performers as they compete and find that balance between competition and celebration. What can people expect this year?
A lot, I think. I mean, it really, the children's mod has already started Monday and Tuesday. Recitation, storytelling to solo performances and choral events too. And then the adults begin on Wednesdays.
Final words, what are you looking forward to most this week?
Getting through it all and my memory not letting me down, because there are so many different songs, different composers, different facets of Scottish history, not clipping any musical performances. That's hugely important. So I have to remember to keep stum in enough time to let them sing the first note.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Cathy. We certainly look forward to watching and listening from home as well, and enjoy it. I'm sure we all will.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, it was great to hear from Cathy there, wasn't it, chatting to our reporter Caitlin Hutchison. And you can keep across the mod all week across the BBC. Now let's see how the weather is looking, and Christopher is here, school's off, so is that going to mean the weather's rubbish?
Actually, it's okay. It's dry. Not necessarily wall-to-wall sunshine. A lot of cloud around, but a lot of dry weather, Amy. Thanks very much indeed. Rather misty and murky at times too. Great picture there from one of our weather watchers a little earlier. The sun has broken through at times, certainly in towards the southeast, but for many, that cloud has really been holding on. Fairly leaden skies, more of the same on the way tomorrow. Let me show you what's happening. We've got high pressure with us really for the week ahead, and that's going to act like a lid on proceedings, keeping things dry and settled, keeping weather fronts and rain at bay out in the Atlantic. But there will be a fair amount of cloud around at times, and as we've just seen in those pictures, some mist and murk and some fog, some low clouds. So this is the picture first thing tomorrow. Rather grey and overcast start. The odd brighter moment. You can see actually the low cloud there in towards the Great Glen. Particularly around the coast as well, it's going to be rather grey and cloudy with some low cloud lingering through the day. Now, as we go through Tuesday morning towards lunchtime, you can see we've got very light winds, and that cloud will thin and break at times, but sunshine for many will be in short supply. Little change midweek. Here is Wednesday, that high pressure once again slap bang overhead, keeping things dry and settled. Your weather app probably won't be right this week because the weather computer models really struggle to work out where the cloud and where the sunshine is going to be. There's not really much wind to break up that cloud or move it around. If you get the sunshine, not too bad, but for many, if you're stuck under the cloud, it will feel quite cool, quite chilly at times, in fact. Thursday, little in the way of change. Temperatures fairly steadfast because we're not changing the air mass at all, so it's weather on repeat through the week. And then through to the weekend, that high pressure just starting to show signs of collapse, with low pressure beginning to move in, bringing the chance of some rain. But before we get there, you can see on Friday, once again, it's dry and settled. Generally light winds and temperatures 10 to 13 Celsius. Saturday again, mostly dry, but you can see there that rain just beginning to move in. Some weather models have that rain in with us on Saturday, some have it in with us on Sunday. They all have it with us by Monday. So all to play for the weekend, but you can see before we get there, lots of dry weather, lots of cloud and a bit of sunshine at times too. That's the forecast for now.
Weather app isn't right, but you always are, Christopher.
Well, I won't go
Never
that
in
far.
doubt. Thanks very much. And thanks to you for joining us as well. The news at 7. We'll be back tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.